Alright, so well, my homework, man. What you gonna be doing later?
Nothing after I get done studying.
I hit you up, inshallah. But we supposed to meet up anyway. I sound like an ambassador.
What's going on? What's happening later on, man?
Ain't nothing. We're supposed to chop it up with him. We got some things to talk about here. Other than that, probably gonna get some shade.
Man,
Oh, that's right. You live on the block.
Yeah, hit me up, man, so I can cross the street.
Okay.
I'll bring Nico with me, man, because my wife is breaking.
Nah.
Ain't nobody
Alright.
gonna be there with her and the babies. Huh?
So Nico ain't hard up like that, is he?
Man, that dude is a mess, man. Since Osmo been born, that dude's a
Yeah.
mess.
Just don't say too much. We're gonna be incriminated on recording.
I don't care. She can hear it.
I think we saw some cousin.
Can't stand my kids.
Sound like Robin Harris. Bad A kids.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. رضي الله تعالى عنه وسرد التابعين وعلماء أملين وآئمة أربعة مجتهدين ومقلديهم إلى يوم الدين وبعد. So basically, this is my second fatwa for black people in America. So today I just want to mention just a couple points. We were going to mention about Aqidah. The first thing I want to mention about Aqidah was that it's every generation is going to have its trial with someone or a group of people, I should say, or someone. When I'm saying someone, I'm talking about someone of influence. The person of influence passes on the belief, the ideology, and the people spread it. So this is why I'm saying someone. Now, the person who is influential that passes on the beliefs, usually that is the person that's necessary to refute, and it's like it would end all, right? Sometimes that person has to be refuted within a group of people, like when you see when during the Khilafah of Ali ibn Abi Talib, Karamallahu wajh, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, when he dealt with the Khawarij, he would have Ibn Abbas and Ibn Mas'ud debate with them. And when they debated with them, they debated in a public setting. Okay? Now, this is the thing. He also had them, executed. Some, from the debate, some people would take Shahada and they would join the believers. And some of them will remain, deviant in their belief or kafir. It just depends on what the mas'ala was. One of the main things, the biggest things that we have to understand as new Muslims, everybody's not going to walk us with a walker, baby steps, right? You have to come to realization. So the most important thing to focus on is usuluddin. And I'm mad that it took me almost 20 years to know this, right? We talk about this and we go over these things in our classes. You have the Fardu Ayn and you have those things that are Fardu Kifaya. From amongst the Fardu Ayn with regards to your belief is usuluddin, where you learn about those things that are necessary for you to know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Knowing that Allah exists, right? Knowing that Allah is before time, knowing that Allah Ta'ala is ongoing after time, knowing that Allah is different from creation, right? Knowing that Allah Ta'ala is independent. He's not relying on, description or place, right? Knowing that Allah Ta'ala is omnipotent, that He's wahid, that He's, unique or one. Knowing that Allah Ta'ala, He has irada, He has determination, right? And those things that are from amongst the usul. Prior to the argumentation or the development of the Salafiyya, because the Salafiyya was the next biggest movement after the NOI for black people. Okay? Next biggest movement. Because during that time in between, you had other movements. I think we mentioned some of them last week. We mentioned the Dar and other movements that you had that were actually Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. They didn't have a lot of Arabic like a lot of people came with later, but they had, they had families, they had a Jama'ah, they had families, children, children were learning Islam. They weren't afraid and they were proud to be Muslim, right? They were proud of the Sharia and so on and so forth. What came after that was a lot of disputation, where it was a lot of time spent refuting, especially between Imam Muhammad, Wafdi Muhammad, and the Dawud Adib and guys like that were refuting, the belief, and it just trickled on down. And don't get me wrong, Imam Muhammad, some of them things that, some of them refutations were rightly, he deserved them. And some of them, you can tell it became a tactic to split up, the community after a while. All right. Some moves he made. He married his daughter to a non-Muslim man. His daughter was Muslim, and the guy wasn't Muslim. Regardless of him becoming Muslim later, he still blatantly, did something. In these events that I'm mentioning, these were events that happened, and it became public information where it drew people to draw sides. Like, look, I ain't following him no more. Allah says this in the Quran. If you go against that, I ain't doing it.
Because a lot of some, I know it's a lot of stuff they used to be in the Wafdi Muhammad.
A lot of them started leaving and going directly to him. So, these were issues of Aqidah. However, now that we've learned that you have the Fard Ayn and Fard Kifaya, and we're responsible for knowing the usul. So what happened as that time passed, which we're into the next era, and we don't like to name this era. We kind of like still throw it under that era where, kind of like, well, but amongst Ahl Sunnah, we even have an issue in itself. So you take the word Tawheed, right, in Aqidah, and people, utilize this and they say it. So when you're thinking of Tawheed, belief, you're thinking of the absolute end-all be-all. Most people, if you take a census, right? I challenge y'all to do this when you spare time. Ask people, what's the greatest book of Tawheed? The last book you'll hear name by name is the Quran. They'll name Tahawi, Risala ibn Abi Zayd, Imam Nasafi, Abu Hanifa. And they'll just keep going on. The Thalathatul Usul, Kitab Tawheed, and they'll just keep going on.
What's the greatest book of Tawheed?
I promise you, they'll name everything. The Quran will be the last book named.
They probably won't even mention the Quran at all. It ain't even going to be the last book.
Oh, you won't even mention, right? Everything is supposed to be derived from the Quran. So when you get even your Usuluddin, when we go, the other class I'm doing, a more advanced class, Miratul Tulab, it goes in there, and also Umdatul Muta'abidin. You about to say something?
Stating that the Quran is the greatest book of Tawheed, it would eliminate Tahawi, Thalathatul Usul.
Exactly. Exactly.
All of them derive from that.
Imam Ibn Abi Zayd, it'll scratch all that out.
All of that, it'll eliminate everything.
But you know what it won't? Usuluddin, because what the Quran deals with, Surah Hadid, Allah mentions who He is. Surah Hashr, the last few ayahs, Allah mentions who He is. The Quran states that it's necessary to know who Allah is than to know.
Right.
What the Salafis use, where is Allah? No, it's necessary to know who He is.
Right. So, and this is the thing. That's a good point you brought out, because that was the point I was going to bring up. All of those other subjects that they call the books of Tawheed, they all fall under Fard Kifaya. All of them. All of them fall under Fard Kifaya. And Fard Kifaya is like a person learning martial arts. See, naturally, you know how to fight. A person know how to fight. They may not have hand-foot coordination, but you have limbs that you know that you can throw. People even use their teeth and bite somebody in a fight. You know what I'm saying? Get desperate. And you need your intellect, and you need a method of fighting. Martial arts only make you a better fighter. You see what I'm saying? A tactician, where you won't be sitting there fighting somebody for about 2 hours. You get two people fighting that don't have any fighting skills. They're gonna be fighting all day unless one of them knock the other one out. And they gotta knock them out cold. You know what I'm saying? Like if you ever see a man and a woman fight, the woman is fighting like they ain't no tomorrow. That's why usually the man get beat down by the woman. She all over, rah, scratching. You looking like Bow Wow. You see a picture of Bow Wow. You got the monster claw across his forehead. She tear you up. She start hitting you with everything. She starts panicking, throwing stuff from halfway across the room. A man, he automatically, a lot of us, because we watch boxing and wrestling, so we think we got a little skill. We got a visual. Women don't know why today's women do, but women in the past, that wasn't their thing. They ain't like watching all them brute sports and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyway, that's what Ilmul Kalam is. All that stuff falls under Ilmul Kalam. Ilmul Kalam is made to defend the religion. So, now what you had is the black community was divided up because of the argumentation. It was unified and it was also divided. In the past, it was unified because people left the NOI, left the nation, and started becoming Muslim, right? And it made Islam grow, because that's true Islam. Imam Muhammad was responsible for bringing a lot of people over to Islam as well. He was also responsible for bringing some of the deviant ideologies along with him as well. And a lot of people, like these groups, they don't want to give him his credit, but they need to give him his props. Yeah, like the Quraniyun. Yeah, he started that, right? He was a Quraniyun, and he didn't even call it that. At least I respect that about him. He didn't even try to make it a group. He was just basically like, this is my Aqidah. Right. Abandoned method. He was, right. I got the fifth method. My own tafsir, and so on and so forth. And I'm not saying
that's true, because they will be a brother be giving a class, and someone will say, brother, I understand you that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say this, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala say this. I got one question. What do Imam Muhammad say about this?
And so now this wouldn't, Imam Muhammad making his own commentary would not be a problem if it was in accordance with Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. You can't break that, like we mentioned in the previous class. You cannot break that chain. He started saying some things that weren't solidified by anybody to be verified to be true. It was just something he was shooting from the hip. So we went from that to the community became divided. The community was united upon it until it became obvious there was a clear error. So once you point out a clear error, people draw sides. All right. Now, at the time, the Salafi had always been around probably since the 1900s anyway. But they were around. They went from the World Muslim Youth, whatever organization it was, to just basically being a Dawah, Salafiyya. Now we just outright call itself Salafi.
Now they're trying to redo themselves.
Athari and Ahl Sunnah. They say Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. They would say Ahl Sunnah, and so on and so forth. So it would transition, but this belief was still the same. Now, it got to that point. So then what happened? They began to attack the two largest African American communities. Imam Muhammad's community, Imam Jamil Alameen. They started giving out free scholarships. It's amazing because we have a hard time as our people because we're so cheap. We only buy what's unnecessary for us, right? We'll keep our money away from the things that are necessary. We'll waste money on those things that's unnecessary. All right. And so, they give credit to them for going overseas, right? They open up the floodgates, which is a lie. Malcolm opened that floodgate. Malcolm opened the floodgate for Azhar. Sheikh Tawfiq Rahimahullah, who's the teacher, Imam Talib Abdul Rashid, back in the day in New York. He was a graduate from Azhar, right? Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, even Imam Wafdi Muhammad did go. He attended Azhar as well. And a couple people out of the nation and other groups attended Azhar. Akbar, right? A lot of guys attended, so that floodgate was open. People were going overseas way back. Now the problem is the problem was that the Salafiyah, they had more steam. They were more grassroots. A lot of problems, a big problem with a lot of African American leaders, because they read these intellectuals books. Like they'll read the translation. You ever read some of them translated books that's in the universities? And you're like, yo, who are they translating these joints for? They ain't translating it for us. Who are they translating these books for? They're real high level English. When your everyday newspaper is only on an 8th grade level, right? You read some of them old books like Ta'lim al-Haq and books like that, the Hanafiya, very simple, simplistic. When they write, they're writing you because you know who they're writing for. They're writing to make money off of this thing as well.
But them were the books that was propagated more among the African Americans, Ta'lim al-Haq,
right,
and Rasuli the Sirah book, Rasuli Akram, sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
right,
was
a series, right.
Real
And
simple.
they were very simple books. But so then, you know, then you start, like I said, Salafi movement got the oil money backing them. You know what I'm saying? Got that oil money backing them. Now, there was a whole bunch of underground Salafi places. Yemen was one of them. You had the popular place in Yemen, which is Jamiatul Iman, was the University of Iman, where they had the school, which is like, it was an excellent curriculum. You know, Sheikh Zindani ran that. And then you had everybody that they was using that to get their Iqama or their visa, and then they would shoot up to Mukbil's camp. That's where a lot of people were going. There's some brothers that left in the 90s. I ain't heard nothing else from them since then. I don't know if they did. Like, I've been like, yo, what's up with the brother? I ain't heard from so-and-so. So, but anyway, so they use that. Philly is a Yemen stronghold. Matter of fact, the big fight, if you listen, it's a Yemeni stronghold. I'm talking about amongst the Salafiyah. Yemenis is Yemen, and the big fight.
The reason why I asked, because in '99 it was a lot of Salafis that went to Abi Nur.
Oh yeah, no, what?
Abi Nur in Damascus, because Abi Nur is like one of the Marquez of Jamia Damascus. Jamia Damascus. It was a lot of Salafis that went there, but I don't know where they was from though.
Yeah, but that was others. A lot of them.
A lot of Imam
Wafd Muhammad. That was his spot.
Because of Sheikh Kiftaro. He was supposedly had took bay'ah with Sheikh Kiftaro. You know what I'm saying? And he had opened up their floodgates for his community.
Right. So they, you know, but no, reason why I said with Philly, because the big fight between everybody was who studied with Sheikh Mukbil. When the whole thing happened with Abu Usama, Abu Muslima, the person who was in the middle at the time was Usama Qudsi, right? And where did he come from? Sheikh Mukbil's camp. That's where a lot of the fitness started spreading from. The guys who went to Medina and all that, they were just university. They were like university kids. Like it was like if they went to, it would have been almost like as if they went to Temple. You get where I'm coming from? You know, they learned. They all still studied the same. They still have the same beliefs. They separate with each other. Anwar Aulaki, one of his main teachers was Sheikh Uthaymeen. Uthaymeen had a lot of students, a lot of people that all attribute themselves to him. You know, and so it became that spread. It became popular. Okay, on the East Coast, Abu Muslima was the man. Matter of fact, he also helped mold Philly. To be honest with you, his influence was heavy. All right, graduated, grassroots guy, all that. When you started seeing their books, their publications started popping up. Right, you had at first you only had Dar es-Salaam, and then you started having like different publishers, you know, publications, which I can't remember the names right offhand, but they started coming out with their own. And everybody was basically printing the same book, but just changing the covers. All right. If you look, a lot of these books from 20 years ago still around, just got a new cover. And I'd be like, oh, the Sheikh put a new book out. No, it's the same book. I start reading it. You know, I was a bookworm, so I used to read all them books. One argument between me and Ahmed, it started when we had a disagreement over Al-Albani, right? Ahmed loved Al-Albani, him and another brother. They used to argue with me all day about it. I was just like, so what? You know, like, what point? Who is he, right? So anyway, so in the biography, Prophet's Prayer described, he gave his own reference of learning. He said, baby, he studied in the book. He sat in the library, read books. So
He said that in that book.
he said it in that book. Yeah, I'm telling you, I was a bookworm. I read that joke from cover to cover. So look, me and Ahmed, we get in an argument about it, right? He going on the Sheikh, the Mujaddid, the such and such. I'm like, he ain't no Sheikh, man. He Mujaddid, he ain't no Sheikh, And we on Broadway, East New York in Brooklyn. I mean, in Manhattan, going, not Broadway, East New York. Where was we at? We was on one of them train on the A train somewhere. He was so mad. I thought the boy was gonna push me in front of the train. And it was so funny because how we ended the argument was, I said, I ain't gonna keep arguing with you, Sheikh. We're gonna go right to Atlantic Avenue in the morning and we're gonna read it. We're gonna read the book side by side. And he was like, all right. And he went in there, it's Ahmed, right? Ahmed's sitting there reading it. He started licking his thumb, turning the pages, scratching his head, like, but I don't understand, because his father was Hanafi. In order to be Hanafi,
He was doing that back then.
Exactly. And what became so interesting, we had an interesting conversation because we was like, all these books in here are Aqidah. And he said, you know what? Yeah, I'm about to fall back from reading some of your Aqidah books, man. We need to read some fiqh or something, or hadith or something else, because he was like, you get so deep in Aqidah, you might take yourself outside Islam because you just keep going on. Now, at that time, somebody probably overheard it, like, man, what y'all talking about? But really, because the books were controversial. They just kept getting more and more controversial. You're arguing this person, that person. So, anyway, make a long story short, during that time period, it was Salafi versus everybody. And a lot of people were losing their constituency because they weren't teaching the youth, right? And Salafis, they had the plug. You want to go study? Come on, let's go. Like in the 80s and 90s, you want to go fight jihad? Come on, they had operatives sending you over to Afghanistan back in the day. You know what I'm saying?
We had a plug to study in Sudan in the early 90s.
There was a plug to study everywhere in the 90s. It was a plug. You had, like, you want to go somewhere? Anybody? Come on, let's go.
It was a plug to study in Mauritania back in 99, 2000.
Mm-hmm. So
Dawah, though.
Dawah, right?
Yeah, for Dawah.
And so what would happen is we started getting more and more in depth, and then you had Hamza Yusuf on the rise. So you started hearing terms like Ashari and stuff like this.
Was he ever Salafi?
No. So you started hearing terms like Ashari and things like this. You being introduced. Now being Salafi program, Ashari's the evil. You see Ashari like, you like a robot, Ashari, you know what I'm saying? And so then Yasser Qadi had put out his introduction to the sciences of tafsir. So at that time I read that book, I was like, man, this is a very balanced book. It was an expensive book at that too, when I paid for it. But I looked at it, I was like, man, this seems a little balanced, He says this, that, and the third about Ashari, stuff like that. As I said, time progressed. I got Sheikh Muhammad Sharif. We started going over some of the books of the Shehu, and he was reading Arabic. He said, Ashri bi i'tiqadin. What? What you mean, Ashri? You see what I'm saying? It just set me off because we programmed reading all them other books. The Hanafi books didn't talk about no Ashri Maturidi. They was just telling you, make wudu, and when you done, wipe your neck. Make this dua. You do your namaz, right? They was teaching you like, just do your ibadah. That's all you need to do. All the books that was with the shiny covers and all, everything was about Aqidah. Then right after Aqidah, marriage started becoming a thing. So that's when everybody started getting divorced more. I'm keeping it real with you. We started getting divorced more. Why? Because we knew fiqh rulings now. Oh yeah, the woman got to be like this, and the man got to be like that, and this, that, and the third. So now we started getting divorced more, right? The only thing everybody was really getting divorced for back in the day was either the dude went out on a crack binge, or he kept talking about getting another wife. Other than that, it wasn't that much of a divorce issue. So that started happening, right? All these things started coming up, and the more we got towards that time where I ending from New York, moving to Philadelphia, it started becoming extremely clear to me that there's a war going on about belief. And so what happened, around us, the black community started breaking up because you didn't hear when somebody said back in the day, oh man, that brother Imam so-and-so, yeah, he's Salafi now. We just thought like he was extremely mean and You know, on the sunnah had bad adab, but he was practicing the sunnah.
Okay.
Right? Once we got a better understanding of what it was, we was like, oh, he got that Aqidah? Oh, man. Right? So you started seeing this happen more and more. A lot of younger men are returning back. They didn't want to be part of the masses. No more they want to start their own masses. The imam's a deviant. Nobody pray behind him. He's ignorant. Right? And this started happening. Now, how does all this connect? Because Aqidah was the focal point. At one point in time, we used to go to every masjid. We'd be like, yo, it was common. Like New Yorkers Salafis was a little different from everywhere else, right? We'll pray anywhere, but we always ask them, what's their Aqidah? You see what I'm saying? What's his Aqidah? I don't know if we should pray behind him. What's his Aqidah though? That masjid cool? They're like, man, he got some Mu'tazila leanings. And we would make a Lego character. He was partially Mu'tazila, he was Shia on this issue, and he was Murji'a on this issue, and he was Jahmi over here. You be like, oh man, you know what? I'm cool. Right.
They done made Voltron.
We made Voltron, exactly. We just put together a character. So, you know, but all of these things that I'm mentioning to you fall under Ilm al-Kalam. It's about the defense of the deen. Now, Tawheed is supposed to make your heart grow. You're supposed to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm arguing with someone about their belief.
I forget about it.
I'm not knowing Allah. I'm more so in defense mode. You see what I'm saying? Even the whole uluhiyya, asma wa sifat, all that stuff falls under Ilm al-Kalam. And you know, and that's a good point that the Shaykh makes about that. So one statement in Muhammad Sharif had exposed us to was the statement of Dantafa, Sheikh Dantafa. He said
That's who I was
Sheikh
trying to
Dantafa.
remember. Yeah, Sheikh Dantafa.
He made a book called Kitab al-Uhudu Mawathiq. It's like a book on a bunch of oaths that we taken. He said, I've taken an oath and vowed that I would establish my Aqidah based upon the verses of Allah Ta'ala and not so much the rational proof, nor will I take the theories of the Mutakallimin regarding this. He said, I am an uncritical imitator and my source of imitation is the infallible Quran. If I were asked, for example, the proof of the creation of the universe, I would not say the creation of the prerequisites of the non-essential qualities was due to the creation of the that, to the essence itself, nor any other postulates of the theologians, right? He said, on the contrary, I would just say that Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, Allahu khalaqa kulli shay, right? That Allah Ta'ala is the creator of everything, right? He said, I'll just say that. And I would declare it to be absolute certain in the truth of the Quran and nothing else. And what reason would I provide rational arguments in logical demonstrations, and you can never decipher the reality of Allah? Rather, the most that anybody can say concerning the proofs of the existence of Allah Ta'ala is demonstrated by His attributes, so on and so on. For no one will ever be able to pry open Allah Ta'ala's uniqueness. And then he said, as for the Quran, it is emanated from Allah Ta'ala by means of Jibril to the heart of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Quran by itself is conclusive, it's qat'i. So understand that, right? So this is what we're talking about. This is our problem now. So all of our Aqidah is coming now from these particular books, and we're denouncing and promoting and telling each other they're kafir because you go against the point of Imam such and such in his Aqidah, so therefore you're a kafir. Not that you deny what Allah said in the Quran. This is a statement of kufr. They're not saying it like that. They're saying it's kufr because Imam such and such said such and such, and you forgot to say that Imam so and so said such and such. Now, how does it relate with the books of the Mutakallim? You learn those books in order to argue and defend the deen. That is what Ilm al-Kalam is for. Usul deen is just so that you get into the realm of knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then go into the Quran. These Usul deen in these books are useful in order to get you a basic understanding. A basic understanding, but the Quran is where is the end all for everything. You have to have a starting source. Now, this isn't a thing saying that, because even this becomes an argument amongst the Mutakallimin later. You know, the people of Kalam, whether your proof should only be from the Quran or can you use your intellect. See, this isn't our argument. That's not our fight. The point of we mentioning this is to turn the people back to the Quran. Because even like if you look at the Shehu, think about it. The Shehu is a practitioner of what he preaches. Because yes, you have Umdatul Bayan. In Umdatul Bayan, the Aqidah section in Umdatul Bayan, it deals with the Hukm Aqli, right? And I went over that and I show you what's the difference is Hukm Aql and Dalil Aql and Dalil Naql, right? We discussed that. Is that going to be the last thing we ever learn? No. What's the next book after that? The next book after that is Umdatul Muta'abidin. And guess what? Everything in there is what? Dalilu Naql. It's all Dalil from the text. You see? So it builds a bridge. Not everyone is going to be able to look at the ayah and be like, oh, okay, this is this because it is. So it's set up to make stair steps. All of the books of fiqh, where you study in the books of fiqh, whether you start with the Risala, whether you start with, well, the Risala got Kalam in there. A lot of people be like, oh, I take my Usuluddin from the Risala. That's Ilm Kalam. Read in it.
It's Ilm Kalam plus there's explanation because there's a portion in the Aqidah section that says above the throne.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a portion in the Aqidah section that says Allah is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it deals with Kalam and that sort. And only one scholar, Rami Ansur, he had explained what was meant by that, why this was put in there,
right?
Why this was there,
right? But once again, that still refers back to Kalam. And I'm trying to find the statement real quick. I want to find the statement by the Shaykh where he explains why he says that's Kalam. Hold on, so let me see if I can pull it up real fast. Because he mentions all of that in this book. He says, it's got to be in this section right here. So as you mentioned, that's all Ilmul Kalam. So a lot of our fighting has all been based off of that, right? It's all been based off of that. And the Shehu, he refers to those books as Ilmul Kalam. He said they're considered Ilmul Kalam even if it has Usuluddin added in it, because it has one issue of one issue of Ilmul Kalam. It becomes that's it. You see, the whole book is considered Ilmul Kalam. Now, does this mean that we abandon Ilmul Kalam? No. But what that does is it puts things in place. There's a lane for everybody. So Ilmul Kalam in itself is for those who are more students of knowledge. They will learn that whether it's one person or a group of people. They will learn that in their job when they learn that, it's more so of defense of the deen. They're able to argue and say, no, that's not what this means. That is this is that. That's this, that's that. Right? So the more of our time need to be spent on learning our beliefs from the Quran in itself and knowing the usul, knowing your foundation. What does your usul entail? Iman, right? You tu'minu billahi, right? It's just like what we got up there on the board. Wa malaikatihi, the angels. Wa kutubihi, right? You imagine, can you understand something? The Iman in itself builds ma'rifah. It builds you that opening where you understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's think about it. And it also shapes your ihsan. If you know, you're supposed to know about the malaika, the angels, right? A person, think about this. Just think about this from this hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in this hadith, "Man yu'minu billahi wa yawm al-akhir." The one who believes in Allah in the last day. That's from the usul. Yaqulu khair. Say something good. Aw yasmu. Right? Or don't say nothing at all. Be quiet. Right? So the first thing that you're contemplating before you go ahead and say something, you're not thinking about it just being of good adab. You're like, yo, Allah sees and hears all, right? And Yawm al-Akhir, I'll be punished for, namima or buhtan, backbiting or slandering. So let me not even say nothing. I'm going to speak good. I ain't even going to say anything that's going to be bad. Something. Why? What else plays part in there? Malaika. You have two angels. Everybody has the angels that's with them. They're writing every single thing you're saying or what you're doing. So you don't want that Yom al-Akhir. That plays against you on the day of judgment. So you're careful of what you say. The more your iman, the stronger your iman is, the better your behavior becomes. This is why the Prophet ﷺ mentioned this hadith that's mentioning Imam Ahmed's Musnad. Two characteristics a munafiq doesn't have: sound knowledge and good character. Sound knowledge will cause you to change your behavior, right? You can't have the two. If you got crooked, that's why I made that slow. I should make a t-shirt out of that. Bad aqidah, bad edah, right? Bad behavior. Those two things, they go hand in hand. If your belief's not sound, you're not gonna act on what you believe. You're gonna be ratchet. You're gonna do whatever. You don't care what nobody think about you. You coming in like, yeah, and I'm here, so what? I'm gonna keep it a whole beam with you. I'm gonna lay everything out there. For real, you ain't this and this, that, and the third. That's where that comes from. You have weak iman. Your belief isn't strong. So, arkan iman. تؤمنوا بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسوله واليوم الآخر, right? تؤمنوا بالقدر وخيره وشره. That's also very important. That's the last part that people forget about. تؤمنوا بالقدر, right? The belief in the qadr is khayrihi is good and is bad. It's sharri, right?
That's what people's anxiety.
That's where anxiety and all these things are coming from, right? Because they no longer have that. One thing I could say, a lot of Muslims wasn't crying about having mental illness, 15 years ago, is because what little bit they did know, they believed in it. They like, man, I know Allah got me, man. I'm gonna chill. Allah's all razak. You couldn't go into all the details, but you knew that Allah Ta'ala was the one who provided for you, and that was it.
Back in the day, Allah is sufficient.
That was where you went with it. Despite of you sitting in the masjid, people laughing at you, man, you ain't got no job. You sitting here in the masjid all day. You selling nothing but oils, and you stuck with what you believed, and you didn't cross that. Now, people can quote to you every line of Tahawi, all 107 lines. I think it's 110 or something like that. Well, 100 and something lines, and go out and still be smoking hookah with a hijab on. You be like, yo, what's wrong with this person, man? Go out here and steal, commit adultery. All these things are happening.
One thing, and I've been vending for a long time. One thing that I noticed that will always you could be sitting out there for hours. If you getting tilawat of Quran, you're gonna get interrupted to make a sale. Guaranteed this works because I did it. Be trying to read the juice. Ramadan, trying to read my juice. Always get interrupted. Going out on the road. Now, when you travel, you can break your fast. Going out on the road, something happens. You can't. You can't focus.
Right.
What does it mean? Is that you're chasing Allah. You trying to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you out there for purposes of dunya. Allah bring your dunya to you. Even you sitting in the house, you ain't doing nothing.
My first sheikh.
Get a call.
He was from Chi-Town. That's why I love y'all Chi-Town brothers, right?
Hey, look, Sheikh, I need like 100 bottles of imports. He can't
listen,
send it. How much he's going to ship?
This brother taught me a very valuable lesson, and it was meant for me to run into him because I was living in Queens at the time, and I was fasting. It was a Monday. I had 50 cents to my name. I didn't realize we didn't have no food left. So my wife at the time was like, yo, we ain't even got nothing to eat. What are we going to do? And I'm like, man, I was like, I'm about to go out, and try to hustle some money on the trains. And she was like, well, you need to do something because we can't, we ain't got nothing in here. What's up? The kids is hungry. I'm like, I got you. I'm a person that's all I really say. I ain't really got much to say. I got you. I'll figure it out. So I go out. I had a job interview in Richmond Hill. It's a section in Queens. Went to a job interview. I was like, man, I ain't really feeling this joint. I don't know if I'm gonna do this job. Got on the train, my little bags of oils and stuff like that. I ran into the brother Rahimahullah. He seen me. He said, man, you all right, Sheikh? And I told him like, nah, man, I'm stressed. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got no food in the crib. My wife beefing. You know what I'm saying? I'm fresh out. I'm ready to clock somebody in the head for real. You know what I'm saying? He sat down. He's like, no, what you gotta do is you gotta stick to that kitab. And I'm like, all right, I hear you. He's like, no, man, I'm telling you, you gotta stick to the kitab, Sheikh. You gotta read that. Where your Quran at? I was like, man, I ain't got it with me. It's in the house. He said, man, you got to keep it on you. He's one of them brothers like, if you had a Quran, he'd be, let me see your Quran. He'll open if the page is stiff. He's like, man, you don't read the Most High. That's how he used to treat you. And, you know, and he wasn't like, he was the kind of person, if he said it, that's what he was on. That's why I always respect this about him. So, you know, we sitting here, we had, I think we was in Broadway Junction, you know, last stop at the cross of Queens in Brooklyn. We just talking. And I'm like, man, let me get out here, man, because my wife going to be beefing me. I got to at least make like $10. If I make $10, I can go, you know, I go to halal Chinese joint, bring back some food, everybody get some chicken wings or something, right? So he like, don't rush it, Sheikh. Your sustenance is already written. I'm like, all right. So we get on the train. Me and him get on the train together. He sat down. We ride a couple stops. He sat down. He read some Quran. That's what he did. I read Quran. While he's reading the Quran, everybody's buying everything from him. And I'm sitting there like, man, I just told him I'm out here hurting, man. He could have gave me a cell, right? That's what went through my mind.
Yeah.
So now, you know, I kept walking. He was like, he looked at me and said, trust me, young boy, you're going to be all right. So I like, all right, you know, I kept walking. I walked through. I was like, yo, you want to buy some oils, incense, candles, whatever, right? Everybody like, no, they gave me the quiet mouth. I went through the next car, sold everything. I came back. I was like, yo, Sheikh. I said, I'm gone. I'm out. And so I got off the train. I did something that was so disgusting. I ain't never did this in my life. I got off the train and made 2 sajdas on that nasty New York City platform, bareface. Oh, Lord. I made 2 sajdas. That's how hype I was. Got on the next train, went to Brooklyn, bought some meat and everything, went home like, alhamdulillah. From that point, I realized that tijara, you're earning your living, it's all connected to Allah. It's all based off your tawheed. You know, and I've been in different circles. I've been around the circles where people be like, man, you know, I got to do what I got to do. So, you know, Allah pardon me if I go out here and hit this jukes real quick, catch a lick real quick. I've been in every one of those circles. And that right there, that was it. I was like, man, I ain't never turning back and doing none of that stuff. I never even think about it. Because I'm tired. I'll think about jamming somebody like, yo, I got to get some food. You know, my wife, like at that time, she was like, yo, what are you doing? And if you know anything about New York women, they real sharp tongue. You be like, like, man. It wasn't no that. We'll be okay, baby. I'm like, yo, what you doing? You out here? You sitting in the house all day? Like, what you doing, man? I was like, yo, I'll be right back. Yo, I got this. You know, so anyway, to make a long story short, our focus, that's the fatwa, our focus should be on the usul in the Quran. For those who are real students in knowledge, you get into all that ilmu kalam and stuff and stop making that argument for the common people. You're holding the common people responsible. And it's so ironic, this was something that was going on during the time of the Shehu. The Shehu said he has a book, I forgot the name of the book, I know the title starts off as 10b, right? And it's about Aqidah. He said, for the one who says, I never learned Aqidah until I met my Sheikh, he said, then what were you before your Sheikh? Were you Muslim or were you not? Right? Because people would say those kind of things a lot. Had it not been for such a Sheikh so-and-so, I'd have been on kufr. Like, your certainty comes from the Quran. And this is what we have to get back to. If we don't get that certainty, we don't have that belief in Allah, we don't have that belief in the angels, the books, the messengers, especially Yawm al-Akhir. Because our end goal isn't the dunya. This capital society will have you like stuck in the dunya. Like, if I ain't got money, then it ain't this. Think about it. The story I'm telling you about my personal self. Yo, I was willing to risk it all just to get something to eat. You see what I'm saying? When you read about hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where the lady, I forgot they had some guests, and the lady cooked, put rocks in the oven. I mean, in the pot to make her children think that her food was cooking. But she gave the food away to the guests because she was looking for the reward from giving away food. So either we gonna live on these things or we gonna make mockery of these things. And the more we detach ourselves, because you remember we had got real heavy with the whole hadith thing. And now everybody became muhaddith and narrates and grades hadith and saying, oh, this hadith, you don't have a proper understanding. Nobody reads hadith no more. You see what I'm saying? So we don't read Quran. We don't read hadith. What's left? What's left? We're going to make takfir on each other based off of the Sheikh's book. So with that, inshallah, my fatwa for today is stick with the usul in the Quran for those that, if that's at your level. For those of you who are of higher level, then you delve into the ilm kalam and things of that nature. But don't hold the common people responsible for having to know that when they don't. Your iman growth comes from the means of the Quran and you doing mu'amalat, right? Because Allah says in the Quran, Inna alladhina aminu wa amilu salihat, right? Indeed, those who believe and do amalu salih, righteous actions. You're not going to do righteous actions unless you have belief. That's what's motivating you. And we're moving away. Most of us are kind of like getting that Christian embracing belief. Yeah, I believe Allah exists. God is what we need, and alhamdulillah, and that's all we need to get to heaven. Yes, this is true, but you got to do actions. And now, if you accepted Islam and you died immediately after, alhamdulillah. But if you embraced Islam and you don't die immediately afterwards, you got some work to do. You got to put in work. You got to learn how to pray. You got to do all these things. So, this is hindering us. And then you have the third group, the other group, right? With regards to belief, they believe that learning all this aqeedah is a problem. We don't need, that's not important. All you need to know is La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and that's it. Allah tells you in the Quran, Fa'alam annahu la ilaha illallah. Right? Know for certainty that there's no God except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have to know this with certainty. You can't just say, oh yeah, Allah's in my heart. People say that for years. Not Allah's in my heart, I'm sorry. Islam's in my heart. Islam's in my heart. I don't got nothing to prove to you, Aki. No, Islam is demonstrated off your limbs. Iman is in your heart. So, bro, you need to make salat. And, this is what people will run. So, we move past that stage. So, that's my fatwa, inshallah, for black folks. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik wa shadu la ilaha illa anta wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. I think I got like 2 or 3